Hey everyone, has your marketing gone bitter or sour? Sit back and enjoy top shelf strategies from the search bar, now in season 2, where we're serving up fresh perspectives to help you and your digital marketing thrive. I am your host, Eric Ritter, self-proclaimed SEO sommelier and CEO of Digital Neighbor, a friendly neighborhood marketing and SEO company based in the beautiful Tampa Bay, Florida region. In this new season of the Search Bar, we'll deep dive into key SEO elements and trending digital topics every business owner should know. After covering the basics, we'll apply these strategies in real time to Tampa Bay businesses during our happy hour audits. In today's episode, I will be talking about content marketing for SEO. But don't worry if you miss anything. I'll post a content marketing SEO checklist on my site for you to download, and I'll post the link in the show notes afterwards. So make sure you sign up, download that, and so that way you can get a little bit more practical at home. So since we don't have a guest today, I thought I'd take the time and take an opportunity here to talk about myself and the journey as the SEO sommelier. For those of you that have been listening for a while, might be familiar with the SEO sommelier story, but if not, if you're a new listener, just want to take the time and dive into that a little bit more. A sommelier is typically associated with wine. And actually, for those that didn't know, I grew up surrounded by vineyards in beautiful Germany. And in the vineyards and in Germany, wine is just part of the culture. And I loved how wine brings people together, from the festivals, from the friendships together. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful. And bringing my passions together of SEO and wine is why I created the SEO sommelier. And part of that's why I do this podcast. Just like a sommelier makes sure that everyone can enjoy wine, and making sure that you don't need to know everything about it, of how it was made or who made it to have a great night. I want to do the same with SEO. I want to make it accessible and fun for everyone without getting bogged down by all the technical details. And so that's why I'm doing this podcast here, because I want to have some fun with SEO and introduce everyone to search to make sure that you as a business, you as a brand can be found and be competitive online. Now let's get into the heart of today's episode. So in 2024, what really is the goal of content marketing in regards to SEO? Because you might have heard of content, you might have heard of marketing, you might have heard of SEO, but combining all three together is something that's a little bit more unique. And that's where I really want to focus in on as the SEO sommelier. So there's really 5 different goals that content marketing has for SEO. Number 1 is driving organic traffic to your website. So you want to attract visitors through that high quality content. Number 2 is to improve search rankings. So that enhances your visibility on search engines where people are searching for you, for your products, or your services. Number 3 is increase engagement, right? You want to keep audiences engaged and reduce bounce rates. The more time that someone spends on the website, the more pages they look at, the more likely that they're going to become a client or a customer. Number 4 is you want to establish authority, right? So high quality content is something that can position the brand as an industry leader, that can make sure that you are seen as an authoritative, trustworthy brand or business, which is great for your SEO. And lastly, but not least, maybe most important, content marketing for SEO helps generate leads. So it converts that traffic into potential customers, right? Who hasn't gone to a website, made an emotional connection with a product or a service, and then said, hey, that's something I was missing in my life. And that's something that I want to learn more about. You maybe became a customer or client down the road. So let's move on to the next point here, right? Because many people may not realize that content marketing and SEO are actually closely connected. Like I said, it sounds like 3 different terms, right? Content, marketing, SEO, but they all go together like peanut butter and jelly, right? So I really want to talk about that, how they can actually work together, right? So here are a couple points on how content marketing and SEO are connected. Number 1, keywords, right? The foundation of both search engine optimization and content marketing, it all starts with keywords, understanding what are people searching for, what do they care about. Number 2 is the content optimization, right? So you want to make sure that you're using keywords naturally within your content. You do that through search engine optimization, but also when you're creating content, no matter what that content is, right? And we'll get into different types of content later, but the keywords and the content optimization need to be woven in there from the start to be successful. Another thing is user, or as I like to say, searcher intent, right? Creating content that meets the searcher's needs is a common thread through SEO. You don't want to just create content to create content and just say, hey, here's the keyword I care about. Here's the content. Let's write it. Yeah, any AI can do that. But what you want to do is create that content that meets that searcher's needs and answers the question that they're asking, right? Because really at the end of the day, a keyword is a question and your content is the answer to that question. So you want to make sure that that answer or your content meets the searcher's needs. Next point here is how they work together is through link building, right? So link building is a term for getting more people to put a link on their website to yours. So if you have high quality content and people are searching for citations or looking for sources, it's more likely that your content comes up and they're going to link to it, right? So if someone's writing an article about the best Pinot Noir, right, the best wine, and you have a great page about the best Pinot Noirs or your Pinot Noir, someone might use your page as a source and link back to it. So it's just natural link building. And lastly is analytics, right? Tracking performance and adjusting your strategies is common with SEO and content marketing. You don't want to just create content to create content or create creative for creative sake. You want to create content that actually pushes the needle in the right direction. So now that we've talked a little bit about the goals of content marketing, talked about how content marketing SEO is related, let's talk about what the best practices for content marketing are right now in 2024, right? We already talked about keywords. Let's talk about that a little bit more because again, that is that foundation, right? Keyword research, identifying relevant and high traffic keywords and then focusing on the searcher intent, right? So if you're a local business, you're not necessarily going to come up for using the Pinot Noir again. If I just make a page on Pinot Noir and I only sell my wine in a certain geographic region, it doesn't matter, right? So you want to maybe write an article about, let's say you're here in Tampa, about the best Pinot Noir in Tampa or Pinot Noir near me. So you want to make sure those keywords match with what your content and your service and product are all about. Another best practice is just planning it out. Think ahead, right? Create a content calendar or content strategy to stay organized to make sure that you know what content you're going to write the following month. Make sure that you are not creating the same content over and over, but it is actually content that works together and complements each other. Another great tip is high quality content. And that's something that's really in focus with ChatGPT, all the other AIs out there is just pumping out content. We call that thin content, right? And Google's aware of thin content and will actually ding you or punish you if you're just pumping out low quality content. So you want to do the opposite. You want to put out high quality content that focuses on valuable and informative information that people are going to care about when they're conducting their searches, right? You guys are seeing that common theme here. We want to answer people's questions, right? The keywords with that content. So that content needs to be high quality. That's the best possible answer to people's questions. Obviously, make sure you're following SEO best practices. So those are the title tags, the meta descriptions, the header tags. Make sure that you're putting the keywords in there, right? You want to put the keyword that you're targeting as far forward in the title as possible. You want to at least mention it in your meta description and include it, sprinkle it in through your headers, especially in the H1, the most important header at the top of the page. And if you don't know what these things are, don't worry. I know we're getting a little bit in the weeds here. Feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a message or put a comment here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about SEO best practices here. And lastly, when you're creating content, think about how you're going to promote it, right? How are you going to share it across the different platforms? Are you going to create a blog post and then slice it and dice it into content pieces that you can share on social? Are you then going to put that blog post in your email newsletter? Are you going to maybe use it as a script to create a quick YouTube short? So think about how you can use one piece of content across multiple different platforms because it's easier than you think. You just need to plan it out. Next, let's talk about creating content that is both engaging for readers and optimized for search engines, right? Because that can be super challenging. So we've kind of talked about that and kind of talked around it a little bit. So I want to give you guys some actionable tips here on how to create that content that is created for both. So number one is always do your audience research, right? Understand your target audience's preferences and pain points, right? We call that the ICP, create your ideal customer profile so that you know what they care about. And it should include as much as you know about them. It could be, let's say, an older audience that we know are going to use computer and iPads, that need larger font, that need things maybe a little bit more formal. Or is it a younger audience just browsing on their phones and they want things a little bit less formal? So understand what those preferences are, what those pain points are, and what your product, your service can do to help with those pain points. Another thing is to focus on engaging formats, right? So don't just create walls of text, because that's a trap that we fall in a lot as SEOs, is like, let's just create content that has more words than the competitor, right? So we're going to just create a long blog post, but that's not always the best solution. The best solution is a page that really connects with your audience. So make sure, maybe if you're making a blog, that it has videos and infographics and photos in there as well, because nobody wants to just be confronted by a wall of text. We're just going to black out and leave that website. The next thing is your SEO techniques. Don't always trust the computers. Don't always trust the ratings, right? So if they say include this keyword 12 times, right? You guys might be using plugins like Yoast SEO or Rank Math or other tools out there. Don't always just trust the numbers. You got to use your instinct, because you want to make sure that you're writing in a way that it's connect with your readers. So if you're incorporating keywords, you're optimizing the images and ensuring all those things, make sure that it all makes sense, because that's going to be more important than just hitting a target number of keywords or a target grade by some grading tool. And that brings me to storytelling, right? You want to create compelling narratives that will resonate with that target audience. What are their pain points? What do they care about? What do they want to see? What do they want to hear, right? So if someone's buying shoes, let's say, again, using age here as the audience differentiator, they're younger, they might want to see the videos of someone unboxing it, right? People love unboxing videos. And that's going to be a big point to them. Where if someone who's a little bit older, they might actually care, how do these fit? Or how comfortable are they, right? So make sure that you're telling a story around your target audience and what they really care about. Finally, think about a clear structure, right? The structure is important for search engines to understand what is this page about, but also for individuals that are scanning the page, such as myself. I probably hardly ever read the entire web page. I just scan it. I look at the headlines. I look at the bullet points. I look for short paragraphs and work my way around there. So make sure you have a clear structure that people can follow and understand what that content is about. And again, not just a wall of text. And another really important point when it comes to content is quality, right? And quantity. I kind of talked about it before, especially with AI. It can be dangerous because it's so easy to pump out content in a lot of quantity, right? So what's more important, quality or quantity? Let's tackle that here and talk about that a little bit more. So quality, right, is going to be more important, period. High quality content that provides value is crucial. Otherwise, you're just creating content for content's sake that no one's ever going to read, no one's ever going to go to, right? Google looks at your website as a whole. Let's say you have 10,000 pages and 9,000 of those don't get any visits because you created 9,000 articles because you could with ChatGPT. That's going to hurt you because Google's going to realize, wow, this is a big website, but no one's ever engaging or going to that content. So that engagement is really important, right? Quality content that engages reader and encourages sharing, I should say, not discourages, right? Want to encourage that, want to make it shareable, right? That someone's going to put it out on social, that people are going to land there organically is so important. So if you need a lot of pages, make sure every single page has a lot of high quality on it. Another thing is creating authority, right? So how do you build authority on websites? So if you're writing about something medical, make sure that you have a doctor listed on there that went through it, right? Because otherwise, why am I going to trust your medical piece of content here if it isn't vetted out by a doctor, right? Just look at the WebMDs of the world. Why do they come up so high? Because each article is vetted or co-written or co-authored by a doctor. Same thing for any other area like that. If you're in legal, it should be a bar accredited attorney that wrote that content or that approved it, right? Or if you are creating content on wine here, maybe it was co-authored by a real sommelier, not an SEO sommelier like me, but a wine sommelier, because that builds credibility because he knows what he's talking about when it comes to wine. So think about that when you're creating quality content. And why is quality so much more important than quantity, except what I listed? It's also because of the long-term benefits, right? Quality content has lasting SEO benefits. There's content that's been around for 5, 10, 15 plus years that still comes up at the top of Google. And that's one of the beauties of SEO. If you create quality content, it's going to pay dividends for years, maybe even decades down the road. It's not like paid media. As soon as you stop giving money to Google or Meta or whoever you're advertising with, you're not going to get traffic. You're not going to get leads, right? As soon as you turn off that ad spend, you're done. But with SEO, if you invest in high quality content and you stop paying for it, 5 years down the road, that content's still going to generate leads for you and bring in people. So that's why it's so important to focus on the quality over the quantity. So now we've talked about different approaches to the quality, the quantity, the tips and tricks here. So I want to talk a little bit about different various forms of content marketing, right? Because each of them serves a different purpose. And this is actually a really, really interesting part of the podcast, and I'm really excited about it, right? Because we're talking about a more traditional customer journey, what some people call the marketing funnel, right? Because that brings up the question, what forms of content marketing should a brand or a business focus on, right? And that answer is it depends what your marketing goals are, right? So there's 3 different stages to the customer journey that you can answer and you can fulfill with your types of content, right? So the 3 different areas we're going to talk about are awareness, right? Kind of that top of the funnel traditionally, discovery, right? Which is more the middle of the funnel, and action. That's where we want people to reach out to us right away, right? And so each of these different stages match up with different types of content, right? Because people are going to be searching for different things. So let's use a personal injury attorney as an example here. I think that's a good one, right? So if you start off with awareness, the search might be what to do after an accident. So if I'm searching what to do after an accident, it might bring up a blog post that talks about that. Or it might bring up video content. That matches up really nicely there if you want to create awareness for your personal injury law firm. In the middle of the funnel, when people are getting a little bit closer, trying to surround themselves with more information, so here they might have something that happened to them and they have a better understanding of it, and they want to ask a more specific question. So it might be just dog bite injury, right? So we all know, you get bitten by a dog, you're not sure if you need an attorney or not, but you have that injury. Some supporting service pages, right? It's not your primary service. A dog bite isn't what you're all about. You're all about personal injuries as a personal injury attorney, right? Or auto accidents. So this would be a supporting service page that could be really useful here. And even resource guides, right? So resource guides, FAQs, white papers, depending on your industry, really powerful here in this discovery phase when you're trying to connect with people. Lastly, is the action phase. So that's when people are really close. As an example, they're ready to hire an attorney. So what are you searching for? Personal injury attorney near me, personal injury near me, auto accident attorney near me. It's a lot of near me searches, right? So the type of content that comes up is your primary service or product page is really important there. If it's a local search, it's your location pages. It could even be something like your Google business profile. That's content as well, right? So don't just narrow yourself in there to just focusing on your website, but also look at the other things that come up on the search engine results page there, whether it's Google Maps, might even be ads there for you, local service ads that you want to explore and look at in order to bring in new business. So again, the 3 different phases that you need to figure out what your goal is. Is it to create awareness, to be present during the discovery phase, or to start off when people are in that action phase? The reason I say start off, because for me personally, when I work with a client, that's one of the ingredients of the secret sauce is we start from the bottom up. So we actually start off by optimizing the action phase first and work on those product, service pages, the location pages, Google Business Profile, because that's the lowest hanging fruit. So we want to make sure we come up there and then we work our way up to discovery and then up to awareness to create that content and have that content calendar, that content strategy in place based on priority, right? So maybe your product or service pages aren't in a good spot, so you want to start there. Maybe all your product and service pages are great, so let's move on to supporting service pages, our targeted blog posts there, so that way you have a rank order that you want to create content in according to your strategy. So I hope that made sense to everyone. If you're listening along, we'll put some visuals on the video or go to my website. You can download the guide and the checklist to follow along at home. Because now I want to talk about once you've figured out what your business or your marketing goal is, what kind of content to create. And again, we're focusing on content marketing for SEO, right? So if I was doing this for social media, it would be a little bit different, right? Because starting off, here's some tips for video content, right? Video content, if you're creating it for social media or creating it for other purposes, again, might be different. But if you're creating it for SEO, some of the top tips are make it short and engaging. Optimize the titles and descriptions with keywords, right? So that's on YouTube so that you can come up there. But also as you're creating the content and the script, include the keywords in there because when you put it on your website, which is a best practice, you want to put in the transcripts. That's additional content on your website. And we talked about engagement earlier. So if you create a blog post, you create a service page, why not always have a video there? It's going to keep people on the website longer. It's going to keep them engaged. It's going to give you another way to add more content to the website, not just video, but even written content through the captions and transcripts. So those are some tips for video content. Next up are blog posts, right? We all know blog posts. I have a lot of clients that don't like blogs. They don't want to do it. And I totally get it. So what we do there is sometimes we change the name. Instead of a blog, it's a journal or it's the news section. And we create content that isn't just trying to bring in people for search terms, but is actually giving great tips and tricks out there. So there's a lot of different ways to approach a blog. But a blog is so important, right? As a joke, a lot of times a blog, we say in the SEO world, stands for better listings on Google, right? Because Google loves blogs. It's fresh content. It's new content. It's showing that you don't have a stale website, but that you're actually growing as a website. So a blog is really important. It's an easy way. It's even a great way to start social media, right? If you're a big corporate brand, you're afraid of social media, start with a blog. It's kind of that first step to get your feet wet because now you have blog content that you can share on social media, which is very safe, right? Instead of having to come up with all these catchy social media posts, you can just reshare your blog on social media, or you can repurpose it for your newsletter. Just share your blog entries on the newsletter, right? And in order to do that, the number one most important part about your blog is create that consistent posting schedule. It doesn't matter if it's once a month, twice a month, or every single week, just be consistent there. And blogs are a great way for you to address common questions and pain points. So again, from an SEO standpoint, you might not be able to answer everything on the product or service page. So you can create blog posts that then answer those common questions, might be FAQs there. So make sure that you have that schedule and you're understanding what you're going to blog about and that the blogs are related to your service and product pages. We call that the hub and spoke approach, where your service, your product page is kind of that hub, that main page that you want to drive to. And then the blog posts surround that service or product page with blog posts that support that and give you more details, right? So you might have, again, here, I have a bottle of wine sitting on the table. So if I have a product page about Pinot Noir, there might be hundreds of questions people have about Pinot Noir. I can answer those on the blog posts, and then all those blog posts about what is the best Pinot Noir, what is the best soil to grow Pinot Noir grapes in, what is the best bottle for Pinot Noir, how long is Pinot Noir good for? I can answer all those on blog posts and link them back up to my main Pinot Noir product page. And so we already talked about videos. Put those in your blogs, right? No one wants those walls of text that I've mentioned a couple of times. So include visuals in their videos. And like I mentioned, internal links, link to your products and service pages, right? Don't just link out to your competitors potentially or link out to other websites. When you're creating a blog post, make sure you're linking to your own product and service pages. I see that mistake made way too often. Finally, as I said, that's part of the secret sauce, starting with service and product pages, right? So you want to optimize those first because those are really at the bottom, that final phase when people are ready to hire you, when people are ready to purchase from you. So you want to start off by optimizing those product and service pages. So number one is you want to ensure all web pages are SEO friendly. What does that mean? You want to make sure that the page loads quickly, that it renders correctly no matter what device they're on. If they're on a phone, if they're on a tablet, if they're on a laptop, if they're on a computer, you want to make sure that you have the header tag at the top, that it's easy to follow. You have a clear outline in there, and the content always on there should, again, be keyword rich and should answer all the questions about that product or service. All right, guys, so I talked a lot there about the different forms and how they play together, but that was just really so important. So let's move on here to a little bit more of a fun section, right? Because even if you have the best intentions, businesses and brands often make mistakes with their content SEO efforts. So let's highlight these mistakes and how you can avoid them. So a lot of these we've already talked about in the best practices, right? So an easy one to start off with is poor quality content, right? That low value content is going to pull down your entire website. People aren't going to engage with it. People are going to come to the website. And just from a pure SEO standpoint, Google's going to notice that. It's going to see you're pumping out content that no one cares about, and it's going to hurt the entire website. Number two is the famous keyword stuffing or overusing keywords, right? So yes, keywords are important, but don't put them everywhere because Google can smell that from a mile away, right? You want to be as natural as possible because it also disrupts readability. So we just talked about overusing keywords. Everybody knows what that means. So next thing is poor user experience, right? So what is the user experience? I have a friend who's an expert on user experience, and maybe we'll get him on the podcast soon. If you're out there listening, you know who you are. Stay tuned for that. But for the sake here, we're going to talk about user experience when it comes to just SEO, right? So user experience is so important for the entire website. When it comes to content, you want to make sure that people can, if they're on one piece of content, that they can find other related pieces of content, that they can navigate around the website. So you want to make sure you have a great navigation. You want to make sure that things load quickly and that it's responsive again on all devices. We've all been to websites that look horrible on mobile phones. Nothing worse than that. Another mistake I see a lot with local clients is that you create content that's not locally relevant. If you're a flower shop in Tampa, don't talk about wedding planning and wedding flowers because that's not going to make you come up when someone's searching for a local florist. So create content that is about your service area. So about wedding flowers or wedding tips here in Tampa, if you're in Tampa, or about San Francisco, if you're in San Francisco. So we finally made it to the one thing where you really want to pay attention to here, which is the key takeaways from the episode. It's the content marketing SEO checklist. So again, I'm going to make this available for download. So if you weren't listening to now, I hope you're perking up now. If you're at the gym, right, and you're in between reps here, just remember when you get home to go to my website. We'll put in the show notes to download the content marketing SEO checklist, or if you're driving your car, you'll make a mental note when you're back out of the car and at home on the computer to go check out so you can download this because it's going to be really, really useful to you, right? Because it's that one thing that combines everything together that we talked about and also helps you translate a lot of the theory we did today into practice for yourself, for your brand, for your business, and your own website. So I'm going to go through the 6 steps that are in this checklist that are in much more detail once you download them. So I'm going to start off here with number 1, conducting keyword research. You've heard that a couple times. I can't overemphasize how important it is to know what keywords your target audience is searching for, what their intent is, and then creating a content calendar around that, which is point number 2, is creating that content calendar and sticking to it. And the content calendar doesn't just need to be blog posts, right? The content calendar is based on priority order. So for the content marketing calendar to really work, it's product pages, service pages, old blog posts you maybe want to re-optimize, and supporting content. So if you're re-optimizing pages, maybe you have videos in there as well to support the content that you're creating, not just a written word, but also in video form. And I think that's really important as well. Next up is focusing on high quality, engaging content, right? So once you have the keywords, you have the content calendar, and you're recreating or writing new content, you want to make it high quality. So what does that mean? One thing is word count to look at, right? It's not the end all be all, but I promise you, if you look at your competitors through competitive research, which is really important here, and all of them have 3,000 word blog posts that are ranking really high and yours is 300, there's no way you have quality content, right? So looking at word count is important. What else makes high quality? We talked about it, right? We talked about images, breaking up the content with relevant images, with guides, right? So those can be flow charts, those can be infographics that really bring the content to life are so important. And then videos, if you can, right? So many more people, right, are using social platforms to learn things. They're going to do the same thing on your website. So if you have a blog post comparing the best laptops, people aren't going to just read that. They're going to want to see you in a video talking about that as well, because some people are only going to watch that video. So your content might bring them there through SEO, but then once they're on the website, they're just going to bounce right away because it's a wall of text. But if you have a video there that they can engage with, now they're going to spend time on the website, and engagement time is an important SEO ranking factor. So once you have the keyword research, the content calendar, you know it's high quality content, what's the next thing? You want to optimize for SEO, more specifically on page. So as part of the checklist, I'm going to go through all the different steps here. I'm just going to hit the highlights real quick here on the podcast, which is when you optimize a great piece of content for on page, the most important things are the title tag, which is what you see at the top of the navigation bar. And if someone searches on Google, it's that blue link that they see at the top, right? So you want to make a suggestion to Google. It's like, hey, when this comes up, this is what people should be able to click on. Next up is the meta description. Meta description, right after the title, again, looking at Google, it's that little blurb of text that's underneath that blue link. That's basically a free ad for you, right? So you're trying to get people to click through to your website. So add in a call to action. Make sure your keyword is in there, because Google will highlight that keyword in the meta description when people are searching there. So the title tag, meta description, the header tag, the most important one is the H1 tag. And if you don't know what that is, I'm happy to explain that to you personally. Just let me know. The H1 tag is the most important tag at the top. It's like when you read an article in the newspaper, you have the headline and you have the article. So the headline tells you what the article is about and why you should read it. Same thing on the web page. You want to have that header tag optimized so that someone wants to read that piece of content, but also putting the keyword in there. And then also optimizing the rest of the article, breaking it up into between 150 to 300 words between each header in there, alternating kind of between H2 and H3 headings, depending on the importance of them, all the way down through your piece of content. Also, internal linking is important and part of the on-page optimization. So when you're creating the blog post, that it's linking back to your rest of the website. Again, those are just some of the highlights here. Download the checklist to get all of the on-page factors. Fifth step now is promoting content through various channels, right? Sure, you're going to have a piece of content that's going to be really well written. It's going to be high quality. So you're going to start bringing organic traffic, right? Which is the number one goal of content marketing for SEO. But you also want to publish that out there. Again, do you have a newsletter? Get people to read that from the newsletter. Do you have social channels? Publish your blog posts. Get people interested to then come to the website. The social media posts are almost like, I like to say, like a teaser trailer, right? Like, hey, here's some information on ABC. Go to my blog to read the rest of it. And it gets people going to the blog there. Send it out to your contacts, right? And maybe reach out to websites that might find it relevant. If you have some original research or really original content, you want to send that out to other websites to get those backlinks. And then lastly, one that's often overlooked is you want to actually measure the results and impact of your content, right? So keep track of it. If you know what keyword that you're targeting there, track that keyword. Are you going up or not? Are you getting traffic for that keyword? Am I getting leads? Am I getting sales from this piece of content? What content is working better or not? And it's very iterative, right? So it all now goes back to the top as you're measuring the results and you're realizing, hey, there's some older pieces of content or blog posts that maybe aren't working as good. Go back and re-optimize them as you're going through and creating that content calendar. So it's all just iterative like a circle there. So those are the 6 tips from my content marketing SEO checklist. I hope you enjoy reading it and following it as much as I did making it. So once you do, just reach out and let me know what you thought of it. Would love to hear what everybody thinks. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. So thank you so much for joining me here on the search bar. Be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn to follow my journey in all things digital media. You can find the link in the episode description. And if you have any SEO or digital marketing questions at all, feel free to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. As you guys can tell, I'm really excited about these topics here and love talking about them. And I really hope I filled your glass with digital wisdom and look forward to having you join us on the next episode of The Search Bar. Thank you, everyone. All right, guys, thanks again for listening today. I hope you had a blast out there. Don't forget to go to my website and download the content marketing SEO checklist today to get started and let me know what you think.